Well, hello, everyone. My name is McKenzie Kane with the National Sports Media Association, joined by the 2024 Nevada Sportscaster of the Year, Matt Neverett. Matt, thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Hey, thanks for having me. Happy to join you.
If you wouldn't mind just, starting off with a little introduction on what you're currently up to in the world of sports broadcast.
Yeah, so I am one of the full-time play-by-play broadcasters for the Las Vegas Aviators, AAA affiliate of the Athletics, and then I also serve as the play-by-play voice for UNLV football, basketball, and baseball, squeezing that all in the off season and the beginning part of the minor league season, staying busy as well with a lot of the college basketball conference tournaments that come to Las Vegas. It's a great place to be busy for sure.
Now, I mean, this is your first time winning this award with the NSMA. Take me to that moment when you saw the announcement.
Oh, certainly excited. It's something that my first time going through it as far as, not only becoming a member within the last year, but the nomination and the voting process. And certainly honored that my fellow media members thought enough to vote for me for Sportscaster of the Year. It's a big honor as well because it's an award that my dad won in this state 25 years ago in 2000. So it was really, really excited. Definitely, a reward for a lot of the hard work paying off.
So was this something that you knew from an early age that this was the career you wanted to pursue then?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I was fortunate enough to be around, a family that was, all about sports. I'm one of three brothers. My dad broadcasted since I was a very young age, and just kind of seeing his path and seeing some of the cool things that being involved in sports as a career kind of gets you was certainly a motivation from a pretty young age. I would say probably by the time I was a sophomore in high school, I knew that this is exactly what I wanted to do for a career. And luckily enough, it made the college process a bit easier as far as applying and already knowing going in what I wanted to do. And it certainly made things a lot easier after graduation, really having that sole focus. So it's been a big, big pleasure to, really see those goals come through and come to fruition. And it helps that it's something I've been doing for quite a while already.
What was that college process like? Once you did, finally hone in on the career path that you were looking toward, what were the next steps?
Yeah, and I had a unique route as well because I played baseball and all that I really wanted to do was play baseball and broadcast games in college. I was fortunate enough to be able to do both. I first attended a school in West Virginia called Bethany College, did both there at the Division III level, and then transferred to Appalachian State in North Carolina. I played club baseball there and was the club president for 2 years, and right away jumped in with the radio station and got involved with announcing games and doing talk shows and all the other fun stuff that comes with college radio at that level. So it certainly made it easier. The fact that I wanted to play baseball really badly definitely changed some of the schools that I was looking at. Had applied to schools like Ithaca and Ohio, but those were two schools where I never would have been able to play on the baseball team. So it kind of narrowed that down as well. But it's just about finding what's important to you. And of course, that could change year to year for sure.
Now, I do have to throw you this question because it was the topic of my final sports journalism project this past semester. Your thoughts on ball strike challenges in baseball?
So we're fortunate enough here with the Aviators at the AAA level where we've seen the ABS system in play here for almost two full seasons. And the way that they've done it here is that the first three games of the series are just called straight up regular umpiring out of a six-game series. And then the last three, they use the challenge system. And I think it's been effective. You talk to both hitters and batters, and they'll tell you that it feels like the zone is just ever so slightly smaller, especially on the corners, because that call that an umpire would normally give you just off the plate just isn't there anymore if it is indeed challenged. So it is a unique aspect. It's one of those things that is coming to Major League Baseball. They're going to continue to test it, not only in the minor leagues, but at spring training as well. And I think sooner than later, maybe even in a year's time, we'll see it in a regular season Major League game because it is coming. It is the future. I've been told by good sources that Rob Manfred is just enamored with it as well. So at the end of the day, what he wants is what's going to get pushed through one way or another.
I mean, you mentioned you played baseball, but you also call a number of other different sports. Do you have a different approach when it comes to preparation before, calling different sports?
Absolutely, yeah. And there is a big difference. Shouldn't necessarily matter whether it's on radio or television, but there are certain people that kind of do a little bit different things for both. I would say, obviously for baseball, it's one of those things where it's prep, but it's a little bit more, unique, where it's you're having conversations, you're remembering stories, you're finding ways to mix things in, as well as certain notes in your scorebook. And just the fact that there is a game every single day of the week, just about here at the minor league level, you don't need to do so much digging and prep work necessarily. It's kind of over the course of a full week now that the series are a full 6 games. Obviously, for different sports, it's very, very different. For football, you doing 6.5 days of prep for a 4 hour window. And there's a lot that goes into it. The prep is a lot different. It's a lot of recorded interviews, a lot of pre-produced pieces, because the pre and the post-game shows are so much longer as well. And then, probably outside of baseball, my favorite sport to call is basketball. I've got the most experience outside of baseball with hoops, and that preparation is a little bit different as well. Especially at the D1 college level, you've got games just about every Tuesday and Saturday. So there's certain kind of days of the week, certain benchmarks that you want to hit. And that goes for football as well. Baseball is a little bit different. Then you got sports like hockey and volleyball and soccer that are just their own can of worms when it comes to the prep.
Gosh, I hear you there, especially with hockey, the constant change of players. I commend all the hockey play-by-players out there. But
For sure. The one thing I will say is that at levels lower than the NHL, it is slightly easier, because when you look down at that line chart, these guys don't have as much flexibility to stay on the ice or come off early as a guy like, Sidney Crosby or whoever in the NHL would. So when you see one guy on that line, you know that it's the other three guys on that line or else.
I mean, you mentioned earlier your dad being such a big source of inspiration for you in this field. Were there any other mentors along the way for you?
One guy that's been a huge help, it was my first job right out of college, and he's still been a big help to me this day. Kurt Bloom with the Birmingham Barons. He's a guy that goes way back, all the way to 1994, when my dad was doing mostly sports talk radio. And of course, that was the year that Michael Jordan played for the Birmingham Barons. And so, wanting a man on the inside, my dad got in touch with CB, as they call him, and they've been friends ever since then. And CB was, he was gracious enough to hire me right out of college at App State. Graduated on a Saturday, was working on a Monday. And Kurt Bloom's still a great, great guy, one of the best as far as, minor, even major league announcers. I think he's one of the best, and he's been a really good source of information. He's been just somebody outside of the family that I can take, advice from. He's not afraid to be a little bit critical. He's from New York originally, so that just comes with the territory when you got someone like that. But he's still one of my best friends and one of my biggest mentors outside of my father, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely one of the younger interviews or younger winners that I've had the chance to interview. Was there any pressure that came with, having such a high position job right out of college about, proving yourself as not one of the younger guys?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's the youth element. There's the element of, second generation broadcaster, and a lot of people would see those maybe as bad things, but I see it as a motivation to work harder. It makes me want to work harder and show that, I'm able to get there on my own merit, and, do what it takes on my own as my own person to, really reach the goals that I want. You've got certain resources and certain experiences that you get out of being a second, even third generation broadcaster, as we're starting to see more and more nowadays. And it's kind of like its own little grouping of guys where you look at them, you know exactly who they are, you know the last name. Some of the best advice, though, that I ever got was from Kurt Bloom, as I had just mentioned. He asked me one time when a conversation like that came up, and he goes, "Well, simple question: are you ever going to change your last name?" And I said, "No, not at least that I think about." He goes, "All right, well then what are you going to do?" He goes, "You can't do anything about what other people think. You can only control your attitude, your effort, and the things that come with that." So that's always been a big source of inspiration for me, and like I said, something that I think makes me want to work harder.
I mean, you just mentioned that piece of advice that you were given that kind of flipped your switch as an aha moment. Were there any lessons along the way that you wish you had learned a little bit earlier on, or just, a realization about the industry?
Well, one good bit of advice that I got from my dad at a pretty young age, which helped because it was another kind of switch flipping moment. You can't please everyone. You certainly can try, but he told me, and he still tells me, at the end of the day, and he brings it up in the sense of Major League Baseball, but it applies to all fields at all levels. Is more or less 30% of the people that are listening or watching to you are going to hate you no matter what. Nothing you can do there. 30% of the people are going to love you no matter what. You could say or do anything, and they're still going to find a way to like you and your call. It's about finding a way to make that other percentage of people just be neutral, even if they don't hate you. Just someone that go, "Oh yeah, he did a good job." That's the worst case. So you want to find a way to make that other percentage of people, like you at the best, are neutral to you at the worst, because 30% are going to hate it, 30% are going to love it regardless.
I've never heard that before, and fantastic advice, and honestly something I probably needed to hear before ever pursuing this industry. But
What I'm here for.
yeah. Was there a favorite game that you've called along the way?
Oh man, there's a couple that stand out. I remember when I was with the Bradenton Marauders with the Pittsburgh Pirates. This was in 2018 when I was calling games there. We had a 5 inning rain shortened no hitter, which is to this day still the only no hitter I've been involved in any sport. We had a UNLV baseball game a couple years ago here at Las Vegas ballpark where the Aviators play, where UNLV had a 6th-year senior who was coming off of an injury and playing in one of his final college games, hit a walk-off triple off the top of the wall against Arizona State, and we called it like it was going to be a grand slam. It was so much fun to call. And truly, this year with UNLV football, there were some really fun games to call. The matchup out in Kansas at the soccer stadium in Kansas City, UNLV scored a go-ahead tush push type of touchdown with something like 30 seconds left in front of that really hostile crowd. That was fun. And then the bowl game this year, the LA Bowl out at SoFi Stadium. We're fortunate enough with UNLV to call our home games at Allegiant Stadium, which is awesome. There's a reason they hosted the Super Bowl there. But SoFi, in my eyes, and I probably shouldn't say this as a Nevada sportscaster, I think it blows it out of the water. That stadium was so much fun to call a game in. UNLV won the bowl game, capped off the great season, really a historic season in the history of this school. So those are some of the ones that stand out right away.
I can only imagine what SoFi will look like in 2028 for the Olympics.
Oh my goodness, I can only imagine, especially the district that they have around it and some of the things that they've constructed, including the Intuit Dome and the upkeep of the Forum. That whole area around there, they're really revitalizing that part of Englewood, and yeah, they did a phenomenal job with the football stadium at the very least.
I'm curious with baseball in particular, when it comes to keeping the attention of the listener during those games where maybe you got the 9-run leads, how do you prevent them from tuning out?
Well, number one, and this is another thing that Kurt Bloom taught me right off the bat, is energy. I mean, you want to have more or less the same energy in the 8th inning of a blowout than you do for the first pitch of a game. That right off the bat will keep people tuned in, even if they're not, necessarily paying 100% attention. The big thing too with baseball that I was taught pretty young is that people are going to listen in 2 or 3 minute chunks if they're sitting there with the game on the radio and even on TV. And there's not as many people I would say nowadays just collectively locked into every single pitch of a game, and that's fine. That's just the nature of the beast when it comes to the tempo of baseball, which is speeding up. But I do think that finding a way to develop some sort of a rhythm. And you don't want to be sing-songy. You don't want to, have the same inflection up and down, but just finding a way to make your voice and your syncopation interesting, especially and when it comes to a big call, instead of saying, he swings and hits a fly ball to right field, there's Jones settling underneath it, and it's caught for out number two. Fly ball, right field. Here's Jones, right fielder underneath it, and he's got it. Same words, more or less, huge difference. So I would say the energy and finding a way to have that rhythm to your call, especially late in games, makes a big difference.
Now, this is just a fun question that I'm curious about because you were going through the play calls and I just had an immediate I was teleported into some of my favorite baseball movies. So I'm curious if you do have a favorite baseball movie that announcing wise really resonates with you.
Well, of course, there's Major League, and
I was
we're
just
not
about to say
far
you,
from the
you were
passing of
going through
Bob.
that play and I immediately took me to Major League, so I had to ask.
I had to, I think I went about it a little bit cleaner than Bob Uecker might have, especially in that movie. But that one stands out right away. I've always got a soft spot. I know this isn't as much announcing, but I love Bad News Bears, and I love the newer one with Billy Bob Thornton. I don't know why. That was just one that I remember seeing in my childhood. Benchwarmers is another just silly baseball movie that I've always liked. But Major League, Bull Durham, obviously. Field of Dreams, we show that about once a year on the video board here on a movie night at the ballpark. So that's one that I've seen a lot of. And the Natural is another one that definitely sticks out to me.
Well, I mean, you've laid so many different words of wisdom at me for this past couple of minutes. But Matt, before I let you go, is there any piece of advice that you have for the young, aspiring sports broadcasters on how to stand out in this industry?
Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. The jobs are not going to come find you. That's something that I learned as well at a pretty young age. Is your phone's not going to ring from a major league broadcast director without any kind of effort on your end. So you have to be able to be willing to put yourself out there. Be willing to kind of stick your neck out at times and find creative ways to get the people that are hiring for these jobs, their phone numbers and their emails, they'll understand. They know exactly what you want and some of the lengths that people are willing to go to. And the other thing too is just to call games, no matter what it is, no matter where it's being distributed, just practice, 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 especially if you want to do baseball. That'll help you get ready for calling 6 to 7 games a week because it is a grind, especially over the course of a 6, 7 month calendar, but also just to get better. Reach out to your local minor league team, reach out to your local college, ask what help you can provide, even if it's doing PA announcing. Anything to get on the mic and find your voice, find your rhythm is a big difference. Best case scenario, you're going to want to ask if you can have your own booth, your own office, somewhere in the stands, somewhere that you can sit with somehow to record. You can do it into your phone. They have good apps nowadays, especially if you want to edit it together. Just find a way to call a game. All it matters for is your practice. It doesn't matter where it's being distributed.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me today, and congratulations again on the award.
Thank you, McKenzie. Congratulations to you too as well. I know it's a big deal getting the internship and getting to interview a lot of the winners. Best of luck to you in the future as well.